Alright, hello and welcome back. So now that 6.0 is out, I've taken the first couple of days to go up against bots, get a good feel of things, and now we're going into our PvP matches. If you haven't seen my last video, the goal is to note issues that I'm having in my gameplay in order to try and improve. It's going to be really hard to figure out some things with pack because sometimes you just get a bad read on a game. There are going to be games that just kind of don't count for the review process because it might just be an obvious failure. I covered all of that in my last video. It's not too long. I'd appreciate it if you gave it a watch just to sort of get the gist of what the content's going to be for this month. And because this is the first game that I played, regardless of outcome, I was going to review it. Although you should expect me to go with my lower placement games. I've been like 3rd, 4th below. There's probably going to be a lot of mistakes, obviously. Or it could just be a matter of picking the wrong synergy and just getting countered by some stuff up in the top 4. We'll see how it plays out. Hopefully it goes well. I'm looking forward to trying this format out. And just let me know down below what you think. So starting with Treasure Town Stage 0, I do want that Fire and Light portal because I do want to play Fuecoco. I think the Fuecoco changes makes it a pretty viable carry for Fire. However, I don't commit to it. I could have probably gotten it. I might try and change how I angle my carousels just to sort of take more control over that, as the better the risk, the better the reward. That said, I don't really think that the Treasure Town changes really manipulate your early game that much, because it's like a 1 in 3 odd, or it's just like an odd to get a certain kind of map, and most of the maps don't really matter for early. I can think of HU, maybe getting Cleffa for Baby. Wild has a portal that's pretty interactive because then you're going to have a higher chance of getting some of those wild units in the first few stages, but not too many things that I can think of that actually impact those first couple of rounds. So we'll just wait and see. Maybe someone will make a guide on it and we'll get a better insight as to how Treasure Town impacts the early game. But for now, I'm just trying to get a good look at portals that I might want to play around. So obviously if I want to play fire types, getting the Sizzlipede would be a pretty good add for an early fire comp, as it gives you another fire option, makes it easier to make fire 4, and therefore it gives you an opportunity to just start at level 4 with 4 fire. Alright, so stage 1, we added a Zero because potentially Baby. We also hit Nacli here, so Nacli plus Geodude will give me a nice Rock 2. Nacli's a pretty good frontline defensive unit that will cast, I guess it's just casting a shield. I'm also doing my due diligence and making sure that I'm scouting around, and I do note that a lot. There's a lot of poison in the lobby currently, so I'm not really looking forward to pulling something like a Kakuna or a Nidoran because those are out there already. We do go ahead and fully evolve the Golbat because the best rule of thumb is just to make the best board possible. I am thinking about whether or not I want the level 4 edition of Hoppip. We do pull out as many pairs as we can here, and we're just going to go ahead and sell the stuff that I don't think is likely. So on the Stage 4 carousel, I went ahead and picked up the Nevermelt Ice, because when I'm in this position where I might not commit to anything early, the goal is to have a good variety of items, make sure I'm keeping my gold up, just doing all the things that I can to the best of my ability so I can hang in there until the Gyarados round, because once we get our uniques, there's going to be a good amount of ad picks to give you that direction. And so here we're just going to go and slam Nomicom plus Blue Orb. Even though it's nerfed, it's still a very good pair of items to have. And the Nevermelt Ice gives us options of Amulet Coin, as well as defensive options such as Green Orb or Pokédoll, and we have Rock 2. So I think we're doing pretty good on that front. However, we do end up going into Baby, so it's not necessarily the most necessary slam. Checking the amount of Baby players that are in might also help with the decision to slam items, so that's something I'm going to sort of look through. We did hold the Weedle pair, but eventually we are going to let that go, and luckily we do get a little bit of direction here. We do scout there is an electric player in the lobby, so we want to avoid adding those electric light units, as that's exactly what they are looking for. We also have the add of Shelter, which could give me an Assault Vest, but not really much use there. We go ahead and make the Amulet Coin, and we keep the Diglett, which is going to be very, very key to how this game plays out. Also, because we aren't necessarily trying to win streak, we're okay with a lose streak as long as it gets us money, so we sell those Weedles that we don't need, and we're going to also sell the Hoppips, because now we're at level 4 with Rock 2, Ground 2. Pretty decent pair of synergies to have in the early game. So even though Golbat can't really do too much here, it's at least going to farm a little bit of gold as we go through these early rounds. I think we made out pretty good, because even though we're not going to win or lose streak necessarily, because we did fight the babies early, we will at least be able to farm what little gold we can, and we're already at a really nice and stable 30 gold at stage 6. So at the end of stage 6, we do end up picking up 3 gold, almost winning the round. Again, that's all we can ask for. Now we're at 42. I don't see any better units in the shop. Now that Nacli is added, the use of Aeron is actually going to be a little trickier, because it's not really necessary. If I wanted to go for some like weird full econ, maybe we could sell the Nacli, throw Aeron in, and just sack. But we don't necessarily want to sack either, because we did win a round earlier, and it's best to keep as much HP as possible. We do end up losing again, and because we're up against Electric, they fight just a little too fast for our Golbat to handle. And I think we only net 1 gold from the Amulet coin. So at stage 8, we're looking again. We don't want to add Light, because Electric Light's a very good combination. We can make use out of the Charcoal if we play Ground, so now I'm grabbing some Ground units. And I'm thinking that's what we have to do, because it's going to be a lot more effective than, holding out for a random T10 off of an ad pick. We already have the Diglett as our ad pick, and again, if we wanted to play full econ, we could have sold the Diglett early, but it's actually really good that we didn't, because now we have the option to play Ground. We go ahead, we pick up a win, as well as 4 extra gold, allowing us to get not only over 50, but pick up the Trapinch as well. And I'll also make note, if you're seeing these clips and you see Pokemon bought but not taken out of the shop, that's just a visual bug. Here we are at the Gyarados round with over 50 gold, so we're able to push as much EXP towards 6 as possible. And we can also just transition, throw all those items on Diglett, because it is an ability cast based unit. It's one of the rare ones in Ground that can actually just be played ability based. Alright, there's a double Ground Portal, we go ahead and take that. Pretty easy decision. This patch, goal's just to hit Torkoal, because then I can make either ground comp very easily, either the Dragon Ground or the Monster Ground. It's a lot easier with Torkoal, because Torkoals will work really well in either. We are going to keep the Nacli that we have. We are able to hit level 6 very early, because again, we focused on Econ. So level 6 ground, this is the point where the comp starts to really feel good. We're going to hold on to those Nacli though, because the only thing better than playing ground is ground rock, and it's a pretty good rock unit. So from here on, we're really just going to win streak pretty comfortably. And I say that because unfortunately that is sort of against the sort of idea that I had with VOD reviewing. The value really comes in seeing those mistakes. We are going to cover the things that I think I should have done different, or I wish I did differently, but we actually get super lucky, because not only do we get control over whether or not Diglett and Hippopotas get added in, but someone also added Sentret, and another ad pick that I'll point out here that's super good that I should have grabbed because it would have been useful if I needed it, was the Tyrant. But because Nacli is new, I thought it's a much better defensive unit. That's sort of the whole point of adding Rock. So from here, it is unfortunately just a win streak. Not too much to really report or give insight to. But again, the dividends come in how I played those first few rounds. I slammed some items, as we do. But the thing that really brought it out was that Diglett pick. Ad picks are super important. Diglett gave me an opportunity to really find footing in something that I'm very comfortable with. And as a result, we got super lucky. I mean, look at those ad picks. We have Onyx. Somebody else added Onyx and Sentret. I know somebody was playing Rock, and some people were playing Fossil. But the fact that all of the units I could possibly want are just there is something that you don't really see in your games, which again, doesn't make this game very realistic for VOD review. But it is, again, the first game that I played. I think I played it very well. I think it sets a standard for how I want to read the game overall. And so I'm okay with that, as so long as I'm able to reel it in and just give that disclaimer that, yeah, this is a high roll game. You don't get access to every single unit that you could possibly want for ground here. I mean, it would only be crazier if they also had the other two, which would be Baltoy and Gullet for an artificial 2 angle. That's completely out of line. That's just not realistic at all. But I think that we piloted the comp fairly well. I think we made the most out of the Namukon Blue Orb here. Even after the nerf, I think some people might be interested in seeing it perform this well, especially in a comp that doesn't really want AP items. So we do have Knuckle Stack. We want to hold on to Knuckle Stack here because, again, the plan is to add it in for Rock 4, especially now that we see the Onyx. And now that I have normal 3, I might as well try some normal positioning as well. Usually you want to get the extra time on your ground units so that they can scale in. But in this situation, I just want the shield, and I want Dugtrio to just do Dugtrio things. So Dugtrio again dives the backline, procs that Morello on a lot of units, and the units near it will then get procced by the Blue Orb, which will then proc the Morello, which will then continue to burn them. And that's basically all that there is to the gameplay here. But the cash money that we are making off of the back of this is super important, and this is why people say you want to build Amulet Coin every game. The easy part is building Amulet Coin. The hard part is being stable enough to abuse the item. The problem that I have at ground, and the reason why I don't play it nearly as much now, is because the appropriate game is one where you're stable enough to put all your EXP in, all your gold into the EXP. You don't want to sit around like level 6, level 7 with ground, and you definitely don't want to be far from 9, because even though Zygarde can make space for additional units, for additional synergies, the biggest problem I have with ground, and I think the biggest problem people see, is that if it's countered, if it's kept in check over the lobby and you're losing a lot of rounds, you're trying to hit 8 more than anything. The comp just really doesn't feel nearly as good at 6, but you can play it at 6. You just don't want to be stuck level-wise, because you want to be able to give it the best synergy spread out available, which this game it would be Rock 4, Ground 8, which will give you a Sandstorm, which will then give you the 2 additional Smooth Rocks, and that just makes everything very easy. I do put a lot of my gold in to finish off my leveling. We're sitting around 30 gold. I could sell stuff if I want to, if I'm really worried about it, but I'm not. Again, we've been win streaking for most of the game now, and I lucked into a Landorus. Now, one thing that I didn't do that I should have done, and I'm very confident now that I should have done this, we could have just red orbed the Landorus. Like I said before, and something I've known for a very long time, every one of the ground legendaries uses the red orb very well. So when it came time to get rid of the Fanfy, that's what I should have done. I could have sold Fanfy here and put in Gibble and then, assign the item. It doesn't change anything, and the reason why things like this go sort of over my head and probably over your head is that when things are going well, you don't really care, right? You don't really care about the optimal plays, and it's when you're in those losing positions that it starts to then matter. Okay, something else that I did that round that I need to point out because it's super important. We did roll down from 28 gold to 0. And there are supposed to be opportunities where you can roll all your gold down, make sure that you can clean up your comp, and that's what I was doing also on stage 20. But the question I have for myself here is, what is the optimal time to roll all my gold down? Is it when I'm at 28? Or is it a couple stages later? Because we got super lucky at 0 gold and hit Rhyhorn. Now the thing is, it's highest odds at level 9, but it doesn't mean you're going to see it. And I'm sure that we've all experienced those sorts of trends where we think we're going to hit and then we try to hit and then we don't hit even at 50 gold. So it's super important to just be wary of that, and that's something that I definitely need to start thinking about more. I think 30 gold is a decent amount of gold to roll down in order to try and pick up that late game ultra or the units that you might need if they're like 4 costs, 3 costs, 5 costs. Like, but I feel like it's possible, right? But yeah, so here, sell the Fampi. Should have put the red orb on Landorus. We don't put the red orb on Landorus. We have the other 2 items, which are perfectly fine. Again, I made Lucky Egg specifically for Rhyhorn, so there's a part of me that just sort of tossed all those items on it in place of a Groudon, which the red orb and whatever items I had for Landorus, those items were going to be for Groudon. I was probably going to make a muscle band instead of an upgrade, and then we would just have whatever else for it. But Rhyhorn is our backup Groudon here, I guess you could say. Him and Landorus are both going to be really good carries here, obviously, just because of their position in the game. One of them's a legendary unit, the other one is an ultra that is evolved with items. So it should work out. Again, Landorus is just out damaging it though. And I know that there's some 80 scaling going on, but is it really worth putting the red orb on Rhyhorn if it's not my top damage dealer? I probably could have just waited and saw what other items were available. Again, that's sort of like the autopilot that took over there because I'm in a winning position. I let my guard down. I could have made a much better choice. I mean, Muscle Band did get taken there, but there's a lot of different items there that could have just gone to Rhyhorn instead. Being in first place obviously doesn't make it a lot easier because on Carousel, we're not really going to get that good opportunity to just take advantage of all the free full items. But the Legendary Bird round, I'm definitely going to be alive for the Legendary Bird round. We could have waited, we could have saw what else was on there. Maybe something a little less optimal than a Red Orb, but we could have maximized our Landorus's damage a lot more than we did here. Another thing that I considered here was Monster 4, if that was a possibility this game, because I feel like Monster really only starts to pull ahead once you get to that point. We do get our Onyx and Hippopotas. While it is a nice unit in the mid game, kind of useless once you hit ground 8 plus rock 4, because each one of the weather rocks is going to add to your weather count. Hippopotas does the same thing, so it's kind of redundant, and there are better units that we can add. I did evolve Ferret on my rolldown. I did not grab the Hippopotas for that reason. I think that was a good call. Marowak is making this round a lot stronger, which is why you see the legendaries with items of their own. We beat them, we get the power band, and we go ahead and we throw it out on Torkoal because I gave it the assault vest. It's the power lens. And here I decided to try something else that I never really do. Teddiursa is kind of not a ground unit. All things considered, it's much more useful and it's much more popular in a wild comp. But because I'm not going to use normal 3 anymore, I'll keep the Doug Trio for the AoE and the burn. But Ferret, we're going to throw it out. It's my favorite ground unit by far. I love Ferret, but I also like winning games, and I like pushing myself a little bit here. So we do hit the Steelix. We have so much gold to roll, so it's kind of inevitable that we get these Evos. But in this situation, pretty good. We got Ditto, we got Rhyhorn. We aren't going to use our Dittos on Teddiursa, despite the fact that that isn't the worst idea. At this point, we're going to try our best to hit a Rhyperior, whether or not it's necessary. That's just kind of how pack works. There's a certain point with winning, which is why I don't want to focus on my winning games this patch, where it's just sort of over the top. But what makes it even more over the top is that we're now in top 3. We hit an Electivire, and Reshiram doesn't move. Reshiram had that, didn't capitalize, so I just spend 10 gold. I roll down, and I'll take it. I will 1000% take a Poke Rust this late in the game. I go ahead and I throw it on the Torkoal. The correct positioning and the correct usage would be to make sure I put it on a unit in the middle of my team comp. I didn't want to put it on Steelix, because then that would make me think I have to move my units closer to Steelix. And we actually, I'm pretty sure, lose a round here coming up. I think it was this round here, the Mudkip. And this is Fossil, maybe Poison. I'm not quite sure what his comp was, to be honest with you. But because I was fighting his Ghost, I actually ended up getting out scot-free with a interesting late game. I was kind of looking forward to fighting him in Final 2, but that was his Ghost, and he did lose to Shatterstain here, who's playing Dragon. So, I mean, honestly, I don't really know what these comps are. As you see, I didn't really scout that deeply after the early game because I just didn't think it was necessary. I knew I was the only person playing ground. I knew I wasn't contested. I knew there really weren't any there, because I was playing out the rounds, right? I didn't really see Poison that much. Fire wasn't in this game. Those kinds of comps. Water wasn't in this game. So there was a lot less to think about, I think. But the important thing is that I at least used that to focus on my gameplay a lot more. And at this point, we're basically winding down to the final round. I could add Numble to the game. I could just swap it out for Doug Trio. But I think the most important thing about Doug Trio is the fact that it has its usage as like a backline diver. We hit all the Dittos. We make Rhyperior. We have the Pokerus Vial. I mean, what more do you want me to say, guys? I high rolled out of my mind this game. So yeah, that's the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy this last round, and until next time, hope you take care.